Okay, hello everyone, welcome to another episode. Living through cultural programs. And what would happen if we began to see that thoughts have a temperature? You see, the child is born, the first language it learns, I find, is temperature. The first duality is hot, cold, a sort of comfort, discomfort. Then from that language of temperature, I find there's a language, an emotional language, based on the result of, the adjustment of the temperature of the newborn child, you know. So the child first is knowing the difference between hot or cold, then between pleasant and unpleasant. Eventually, the child is indoctrinated in language, and the moment you get introduced to language, you cannot ignore your outer realms. That's where it begins, really. Because language comes from the outer realms. Unless you're creating a new word for an experience that's never been around, I don't know. But usually language comes from the outer realms. I will tell you this, that temperature is a big deal. And the fact that we even consider there to be a Big Bang is because of the temperature, the background radiation. But I would say that the focus is not just on temperature, or you can use temperature as a metaphor. Just like there's different temperatures, there's different cultural programs. And when we look at culture, I had an impression on it when I was young. Then I heard some lectures from some other people, and suddenly the view I had on culture changed. You see, the child has an emotional acceptance of the world. This child enters culture not knowing what else to compare it to. For example, if you were a child born in a religious environment, that is like the first wave of information. The religious ideology from the culture that hits you. Then the behaviors, you know. That means just like how we accept our face in the mirror and we go to work, I would say it's the same, that sometimes the child has no choice but to live in its environment, in whatever context it's set in, whatever concepts are active. Terence McKenna, this very profound scholar, I actually got acquainted with his lectures from Society. He said something that for me was a shocker. He said that culture is a mass hallucination. And for a second, I thought about the relationship human beings have to language, and really, culture is how language becomes alive through a human being. So there are some views on culture. Oh man, what is this? It doesn't have a mind. Are we inside some machine we don't understand? Are these behaviors set in stone? What is it? You know? So Terence McKenna was suggesting culture now is not your friend. But back in the day, you can imagine hunter-gatherer societies, people just learning behaviors, people just passing on behaviors. And really, when you look at the definition of a program, what a program is, a program has an aim, has a goal in mind. It's like certain things are kept in a certain way, so something continues in a certain way. Honestly, the reason I use the term cultural program is because I'm personally bilingual and I was between cultures. My background is from Iran, Persian, but I was raised in Canada a lot. And I could tell you, when I go to Iran, I feel Canadian. When I'm in Canada, I feel Mediterranean. Like in between. But really, aside from the name games, really we are just creatures on a rock. If we can stabilize our attention as with that simple fact, a lot of cultural bias just leaves. It's as if, like, imagine cultural wars. Two different. Let me just say this: that culture is accepted behavior It's behaviors that you can say occur in an environment and become part of the alphabet of meaning of that environment. So I'll give you an example. The cultural program is not the person, it's a program. That means when you get on a bus, you are not the bus. You're on it. Do you know? You're identifying with that seat in manifestation. Now, the thing about different cultures is that, of course, obviously, people are different. You could just look at the different food, different cultures, and different nations. Uh, um, you know, uh, have like different meals, that different, like how many different kinds of food are being made on that, on this planet. I could tell you that's how many different kinds of uh, behaviors there are in cultural programs. Do you know? So, what is the point of being aware your culture is a program? Because you realize it's a program, you can step into another program, or you can be programless. But that's pretty mystical, you know. The mystic was like, buddy, culture? I'm here to see the source of the universe. You're telling me about culture? So, what I'm trying to say is it's a behavioral pattern collectively adopted, and this behavioral pattern is never the same. You know, different people can wear the same jersey, but they are different people. Only in the identification with that instance of symbolism they can be united. Now, I'm not trying to say that nationalism is underdeveloped. I'm simply saying that we are on a rock. Just think about this. We are on a rock. On the surface of the rock, the land appears flat, and how we are containing ourselves on this planet as creatures is that we have colored chunks of the surface of the earth and we've branded it as a name. And then generations of creatures are emerging and being like, oh, this is the name of this place? Oh, okay. You know? If we treat culture as a program, it depends on the aim. And if we can set an aim, then the cultural program can change. And cultural programs, let me tell you, you know how back in the day there was savageness? You know, people would just kill each other, you know? One disagreement and the person's like, how dare you dishonor me? Like the person said, like, I don't know, whatever. Like, you know? And I think about it in this way that if I think about the aim of any program that's active here, you know, it's usually for the continuity. That means actions are done for the efforts of the individual who's doing them. So we can say culture has an individual aim. Let's say you're an individual in a culture and you may love your culture or you may hate your culture or whatever, do you know? But it's an individual, it's the relationship of the person with the environment's accepted collective meaning. And you can say then there's a relationship of the collective with the culture. That means imagine we created a new culture emerged, you know, where this culture, for example, accepted punching people. You know, it was like part of the culture. You had to punch people or you weren't part of this culture. It's like, how long would we go until somebody would be like, why the fuck are you punching people? It makes no sense. You know? So eventually you can say the cultural program requires to be updated. And then when you think, how does the cultural program update? It doesn't update if everybody's trying to fit into it. That means if you're trying to wear a jacket, you're not even thinking of if there's other jackets. You know, and that's the issue. That's the issue. And I don't know how, the way I was positioned in life, I began to see, yeah, it's not just people that want something, you know, from the person. it is also ideology. The language of your world is subconsciously instructing the person. And this is why I say what I say, where it's like, since my childhood, there was a war with language. What does that mean? That means the child is experiencing a moment that's pleasant. You know, it's like, what a pleasant moment of walking in the park. Then the person suddenly hears, years later, it's like, the parks are evil. You know, parks are destroying civilization. You know, parks are ruining the children of the world, you know. And then you'll suddenly be like, who says? And I will tell you, one of the most admirable qualities in the human being is not 24/7 doubt, but doubt at the right time. If you live in complete uncertainty, life will have chaotic elements. There would be no you, technically. It would be inner chaos. If you live just with 100% pure certainty, then what's the point of being alive? It's as if you're either a plant or you're a machine set in stone. You see, the whole significance of life is that the unknown is here. Holy shit, we've been glorifying our knowledge. But the unknown is right here, you know? So we are creatures on a rock in the middle of nowhere. So evolution's done something weird where an object's become a subject to itself. This subject can now identify with multiple levels of subjects. That means when I go, because when I go to Iran, for example, 2016, I went there to see my family, relatives, so I hadn't seen for years. When I went there, I could tell you that it was as if an instant click, where it was like, it was literally like I was thinking in English sentences, translating it into Farsi, you know? It was as if I could totally see that the cultural program evoked a different archetype, and that archetype activated all the ways for example, I know how to speak the Farsi language, you know? So the cultural program is the authorization of who you can be. Now, if the cultural program is not realized that you can update this, you're not going to be you in this world. That means there's going to be some argument that has probably convinced you that it's better to be something other than you. You know, but what if in this life, let's say there was a person in this life that you were, let's say for eons, you had waited to incarnate to see this person. And so you suddenly were here, the life was happening, you were here, and this person that you wanted to see was no one else other than yourself. I have been in enough silent and isolated moments to realize that at the end of ends, it is similar to the beginning, a cosmic solitude. I have a twin brother. My brother once said something remarkable. He said that when the child is born, the child is like a small cell. You know, it's on that level. But then this cell, through the complexity of how life pushes it forth, you know, it becomes the complexity of the human design. Now, what my brother was saying is that after this complex human design, we return back to the solitude of a cell. And there was something significant there, that in order to develop and build an advanced civilization, you have to let go of the fear of your world. Doesn't matter if the idea of you fears it, or the world is made of fear, or you have opened your eyes and, you know, a post-apocalyptic alarm clock. I will tell you, this world is an effort. It is the rage of the living against the void. And so if you had waited eons, would you notice, you know, who you had waited for? Would you, how would I say it? How many people, I mean, this is not a, I'm not speaking to a auditorium, but if this was an auditorium, I would ask how many people enjoy their own company. How many people, when they are alone, get inspired by their own life force, by that which comes from within. that which is an effort, a conscious effort. That is the game of life. Pretty much I would tell you, if there was, let's say there was the story in economics that there was this king. This king found the economists of the land and told them, I'm a busy king, summarize this for me. And the economists would keep summarizing the teaching, all of economy, what it means for the king. And what happens is that the king doesn't have time. The economists keep coming to the king and they're like, King, we've summarized it into like, we can explain it to you in 2 weeks, in like less. And the whole point is the economists keep coming to the king and the king doesn't have time until the king is on his deathbed and is like, all right, tell me, what is it? And the economists look at him and say, there is no such thing as a free lunch. And so I would say, with a sentence that simple, Mr. Within would say, in this whole life, if I was to give you a sentence like that, I would tell you that it is conscious effort or unconscious witnessing. Either the world is moving you or you are moving yourself. If you don't realize that it took you 4.5 billion years to have the capacity to move yourself, if you can say that there are some people who I mean, of course, guys, I can't, I'm not, um, I'm not here to tell people to go in caves and meditate. For me, meditation is not behavior. It has to do with being prior to behavior. It's what you have by just being. That means, I don't know if I've experienced this a couple times in this life where I've opened my wallet and I'm like, why do I have this? And it's like I've opened my wallet and I've seen like a stack of hay just roll past the road, you know. I'm like, oh my God! It's like every time I open my wallet, I'm studying, meditating on emptiness. I'm joking, guys. It's not that. But hey, at least empty pockets keep your hands warm. But I'll tell you, really, for me, there's the cultural program is an alphabet, but it's a strange alphabet where you choose to be a letter in how the whole social system is like writing itself as words. You know, I have seen groups of people and I have seen groups of letters. And it's kind of like people are like living letters. Eyes open. The world appears. Like a Pokemon, we try to catch it with our words, concepts, and language. But it cannot be contained forever. This world surpasses ideological living. Now we're at a point where we cannot instantly transcend ideological living, but we can at least realize we're not ideas to have an ability to work with them. I'll give you an example. Imagine right now there's a pen in my hand. People can't see it. Okay, this pen in my hand, imagine it was in my hand so long I forgot that this pen was separate from my hand. I felt this pen was my hand. And then people would come and say, Mr. Within, this pen isn't your hand. And I'll be like, no, how dare you? This is my hand. But then suddenly it would dawn on me, I have held something for so long I have forgotten that it is not me. And so it is the same. That since we are children, we have held on to ideological, to the jacket of conception. You know, I created this story in one of my talks where I was like, this guy's walking and he suddenly sees something strange. He sees this person has 8 jackets on the hottest day in summer. 8 jackets, like literally the person looks like it's like the jackets are even being torn apart. Even if the jackets could talk, would be like, what are you doing, man? There's no way to wear a jacket. But this guy is wearing 8 jackets in summer and he's sweating, and somebody goes up to him, somebody sees this and goes up to him and it's like, hey man, why are you wearing so many jackets in summer? And it's like the question hasn't occurred, but because the question hasn't occurred, they already have an answer. They already have a previous occurrence and the person says, hey man, none of your business, my ancestors passed these jackets to me, I'm wearing these jackets, my ancestors wore these jackets, and the person is wearing 8 jackets in summer, and you can obviously see they don't just feel life is heavy, the temperature is suffocating. So this person would look at this person and be like, buddy, I don't care. You're wearing 8 jackets in summer. Do you know? Either let your ancestors rest in peace and be a new human being, or properly be your ancestors. Don't wear the jackets of now. You know? And the guy leaves, and this person begins to think, oh, what does this guy know? I've been working hard my whole life with these 8 jackets. Now, what I would say is that how long do you think it will take? If you were Buddhic, how many lifetimes would it take for that person to realize they are not their jacket? They are not their appearance, their clothing. Do you know? Do you know back in the day, mystics had a sense of real estate? They were in the real estate business, but they weren't in the real estate business in the way of owning houses. They saw their physical manifestation as their house, their moment as their living room. Guys, the reason I use the term cultural program is because in my personal self-inquiry, I feel that I called it, in one book I called it consciousness streams. I've called it rivers of thought in other talks. But the point is that this program, imagine your attention in the moment, right now as you're being in the moment. Your attention is like a smartphone, let's say, and this phone you have opened different applications. That means imagine when you were a young kid, you fell, somebody pushed you, you didn't get a chance to push them back. That's an application that has remained open on your phone. Do you know, imagine you wanted to help someone, you had to help someone, it was a moment of calling and you didn't abide. Do you know, that's an application left open. Do you know? The person wants to succeed in the future. That's an application left, a program that has been opened, you know? So what I'm trying to say is that just like multiple programs running, culture is one of those programs. Biological individual existence is one of those programs. Collective social living is one of those programs. Marching towards an interstellar civilization, that is also a cultural program. Even when I say advanced civilization, that's a program, but I am trying to make that program the primary. Because in this emptiness, we have to extract meaning. We have to be prospectors of the meaning of our lives. We have to sculpt our advanced eyes. And if imagine your future self came back to you right now and was like, buddy, be careful. How you're thinking right now is creating who I am. You look at your future self and you're like, get out of here, man. You have no business being in the past. Go back to the future. Don't. Can you imagine how conscious the person has to be that a future, the person comes from the future and the person doesn't listen to the future self and is like, you're messing up time, buddy. Go back. The future self will then look at the past and understand the wisdom of the ancestors. Benjamin says, what I miss. Kimberly says, I like the title. I can't hear a thing. Oh, okay, no problem. Really, guys, I'm just speaking about culture. I'm speaking about how culture really has to do with the acceptance of the inner realms of the outer realms. And when the child is young, there is an emotional acceptance of culture, of reality. There isn't that consciously sitting and looking at it, you know. And that's what the world needs. 8 billion human beings to wonder how this program of a cultural activity is on. That is it, it's like we have passed the phases of violence, rebellion, and the simple reason is because the mind is here. If we were fools, if language hadn't evolved to the complexity it was, I would be like, sure, everybody make a spear and go fight for your lives or something. But now we have ushered in an era where the mind has become significant. And we might not realize it, but the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the care for human freedom, do you know how much how much savageness and animalhood we have experienced until suddenly we became evolved enough to be like, yo, guys, stop killing each other. There's this idea called freedom. If I respect your freedom, you respect my freedom, maybe we don't die killing each other. Civilization is a chair we're on. And we should get up from this chair and move on to an advanced civilization, to a new seating. Hopefully we'll see a humanity where the children get dishonored when their species is belittled. That means, you see, there is a pride that is ideological. Yeah, you hold a flag, you think you're something, but then there is a pride that this is the ultimate living room of the species. We are in a cosmic living room. And in certain mystical Sufi thought, it was very spectacular. They had this idea that you're a guest in this world, that you're not the host. What does that mean? That means nature has welcomed your existence from the void. And so really what it is as if eyes open, world opens to you. But if your eyes are closed, if the eyes of your mind is closed, doesn't matter how many telescopes you look through. The context of the search has been limited to stone. It's like imagine a mystic from ancient times comes back, and it is like, wait a minute, did the soul look at Medusa? Because why has everything become a material analysis? A lot of joys in life, the unknown, the excitement, us caring for the new, that is not set in stone. You see, it's not, the world is not a picture to be drawn and everybody nice. We can put this picture on everybody's wall, you know? It's a film, and it has 8 billion directors for now. But what's hilarious is that the directors are also the actors. It's like a character respawning every day. It's like a character in a video game respawning. The character in the digital video game is like the outer realms, the manifest universe. And what is the inner viewer is like the player behind the screen. And the mystery of the inner realm surpasses the video game. That means, imagine there was a video game you were playing, and now do you see how that video game is not how you are as a being? That means the pixels on the screen are not how your heart is beating, biologically. So there is a difference in dimensionality. And I wondered, could it be that if the physical realm is like higher dimensional pixels, then it could totally be an irrelevant dimension that is sourcing us. So the mysteries go way beyond cultural tolerance. The mysteries of the realm. Okay, so guys, I'm gonna go into a quote tunnel. Quote tunnel is a segment of these shows, um, these talks that pretty much I read a bunch of quotes from people in history to see how they have opened up their attention to an idea, or specifically from a certain person. But today's episode, it's the idea of culture. Cesar Chavez says presentation of one's own culture does not require contempt or disrespect for other cultures. Preservation, yeah. For a second, I thought he said presentation of one's own culture, and then I thought, yeah, people can see like there is ideological freedom, but there shouldn't be the impinging of ideological freedoms upon one another, which is the complex challenge of civilization, which I think now we have to come up with multidimensional cultural systems and programs. That means tolerance. We have to add dimensions of tolerance to any system. That means every person who has patience in this life, you have to, like a knob, like a volume knob, you gotta increase the patience by 200% just to double check that in every moment you will be 100% patient. That means that's the thing about human being. Intelligence may, I mean, of course, brain wiring is different. But I will tell you, it's not just that, it's also effort. Endless effort is the secret to skill. Endless effort. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if every day you're raking leaves, okay, or every day you're building engines, airplane engines. It doesn't matter. It's just effort. That next step, because anything set into a long enough time scale into the future, unless the person has an incredible determinism, they will overwhelm themselves. You know how many times my own expectations of my own future has overwhelmed me to a sort of psychological loop of reducing myself, That means sometimes when you want a lot, when you don't get it, you suffer massively. But if you don't want, but you declare, you simply go forth, I will tell you the secrets of the realm run to you. Honesty and simplicity. If these two pillars of civilization are broken, then inner extinction will come soon. But if these two pillars of civilization are maintained, and this idea of the pillars of civilization, guys, it is the most, it's this, I mean, honestly, I've given myself 10 years to finish it, but it's a series of books where I imagine we're building these columns, these pillars, giant pillars, and every generation of human beings being born, they come and add a brick to this pillar, add a brick to this pillar. They defend and shield the pillar, you know? And the pillars of civilization, I saw it as this is what is going to hold the advanced civilization into place. That means when you look at the architecture of a building, the building just doesn't start, okay, let's just start from ground level. They dig deep. That means what is crucial is to build an efficient foundation, then care for whatever appearance you want your work to have. Mahatma Gandhi says no culture can live if it attempts to be exclusive. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Once you have an innovation culture, even those who are not scientists or engineers, poets, actors, journalists, they as communities embrace the meaning of what it is to be scientifically literate. They embrace the concept of an innovation culture. They vote in ways that promote it. They don't fight science and they don't fight technology. um, of course, guys, I have an incredible uh, respect for Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I will tell you, it's not about, you can't have an innovation culture if the language of innovation is not open to new paradigms of movement. So the thing is that ideological systems, the moment they have an enemy, each ideological system has a, um, it becomes dogmatic. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. So I'm right now saying that I am a self because the world is there and I'm separate from that world. I'm in this world. I'm on the planet. right? So that is literally, it was as if it was all nature, but now due to the position of design, there has been a separation. So that separation becomes dogmatic because from the beginning it has chosen to be separate from the world. Its definition needs the ideological design. And so this is why I'm saying, if the species can in one instant, it's like everybody just blinked, and for a moment we were like, imagine somebody, imagine guys, they asked the question, how long does it take to experience a peaceful humanity, an advanced, efficient, and peaceful humanity? What if the answer was in a blink of an eye? People would laugh, right? Oh, but in a blink of an eye, peace, world peace in a blink of an eye. Get out of here, Mr. Within. What do you say? But I will tell you, because the subject and the inner realms is evocational, if there was the conscious effort from within to live an advanced life, to not fear the only word that matters, to advance. You see, metaphysics has its place in the heart, but the earth is the mind's territory. Your mind is, I will tell you, once you breathe as a mind, you will laugh and cry at the same time. Why? Because you will realize you were never the body, and that is going to be a shock. But then you realize, because you were never the body, you are not the body's destiny. Can you imagine? Imagine there was this person and they're like, everybody dies on this earth. And the person was like, no, I don't die. And people were like, excuse me? Everybody dies. What are you saying, you don't die? And the person's like, no, I can't die. And the person's like, and people are like, what do you mean you can't die? This is a hypothetical setting, guys. And the person is like, because I don't know what is dying. My whole life I thought it was a concept. I thought it was a symbol, an image. But now I realize energy cannot be owned. That means everybody is possessed by the laws of nature. This possession is not replacement. It is just that if you were, imagine 8 billion beings were on an island, castaway, like the movie Castaway, you would see in a meaningless island, you have to use whatever tools are accessible. Forget belief, forget disbelief. Find the dexterity of a future that hasn't failed yet in your eyes. Henry David Thoreau says, it is not part of a true culture to tame tigers, any more than it is to make sheep ferocious. Mahatma Gandhi says, culture of the mind must be subservient to the heart. Neil deGrasse Tyson says, no one wants to die, and no one wants to die poor. These are the two fundamental truths that transcend culture. They transcend politics, they transcend economic cycles. I mean, if there was universal income and nobody was poor, then we've transcended the second one. But no one wants to die, that is true, but guys, I totally forgot to finish this story. Excuse me. You know, scientists tell us something incredible. They tell us to study the realm, the physical realm, to go see for ourselves, which is an ultimate declaration of the future requires to be studied experientially and directly. You know, the mystic and the scientist are two sides of the same coin. The mystic is having the same intensity as the scientific mind towards the material composition of the realm. But the mystic is having it to the immaterial composition. You know? Mystics are scientists of an immaterial universe. Mystics are the travelers through the mystery of the mind. That story I was telling you of that person saying, I can't die, that person's reasoning was simply not just that the mind was unknown, that the idea of you, or any person who's alive right now and has a subjective I thought of a self, cough, cough, ego, that thought of you, if someone asked you who are you, and that thought that would come to you is never an object. It reflects matter. It is not matter. That means the idea of you is not something that could break. It's not something that could die. It is attention present before any activity could become an accumulated, compartmentalized USB storage of a soul. You know. Wayne Dyer. I have always marched to my own beat, and most frequently it was inconsistent not only with my own immediate family, but with my culture as well. James Baldwin says no people come into possession of a culture without having paid a heavy price for it. Nelson Mandela, get too political. Albert Camus says culture, the cry of men in the face of their destiny. Oh my God, what a gem. Guys, check out this quote. I recommend people to share this quote in their social media because it's probably a quote never shared in social media. Make history, guys. Share these quotes with social media. When Albert Camus says the cry of men in the face of their destiny, culture is the known against, not against, but in the face of the unknown. Guys, I'm telling you, philosophers have their own language. Philosophers are sending messages in a bottle to philosophers of the future generations, and even responding to future philosophers in the past. You know? Because when you respect a mind, you're respecting a dimension of origin. That is the thing. That means I ask myself, you know, what is it? They say the golden rule, treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself. And then I realized myself is unknown and I don't know how to treat it. And then I realized, what if my neighbor's self is unknown? Then it was this sort of notion that we are all known, unknown eyes looking through known bodies at an unknown world. We are an unknown self looking through a known conditional existence at the unknown experience of the world. And there is a feeling, I don't know what it is. I think it's the I would say I consider one of the most high caliber Western poets, Dylan Thomas. He had this quote where I felt this quote would go into, if there was a museum of language, these two sentences, the whole full poem could go into the museum of language. But I will tell you that it was this thing that Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage, rage against the dying of the light. That rage is truth. But it is not raging to destroy the darkness. It is raging to keep the light alive. That means it would be a point where civilization would no longer fight. Fighting, as Isaac Asimov says, violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. That means those people who weren't intelligent enough to find a peaceful way of doing something, they have to do it violently. This is why the moment the wise see them, they see insecurity. And I will tell you, there was a time in my life where I was the biggest fool I knew. But it was a blessing. To be a fool of a world that was never where your eyes were. It was a hidden blessing. And I am telling you, this effort, this binary view that it's like, think of it 0-1. You wake up, put effort, express energy, forget the narrative, forget the story, just look at life from a design level and an attention level and an energetic level. I will tell you, your emotions will fit. I will tell you, if you actually observed the moment before accepting language, 90% of emotions would be rationalized into the void. That means, imagine you're sitting somewhere, somebody comes and says something to you, it like shatters your inner, you know. They insult you or something, they insult your soul or whatever, you know. And so the advanced communicator would just watch and look at maybe even watch and be like, okay, when is this person going to realize they have no idea who they're talking to? This is why, guys, I say this to even my close family. I say, nobody knows me. Nobody. And the reason is because in a changing world, I don't even know myself. Every day there's unknown variables. Pretty much what my life has been waking up and giving these talks is that my eyes open and the world animates through unknown variables, known variables. In my youth, I would just go into the comfort of the known variables of the day. But then I realized, okay, let's notice the unknown variables, you know? As if life was a film. Every day you were watching this film and you realized you had no choice, and you were like, okay, if I at least every day I'm going to watch this film, let me zoom in on the details. Let me zoom in on the secret techniques of the director, what the director has left, you know, in this scene as a gem to later on be revealed. The role of the human being now is to advance language. Right now, I would tell you, we have to be playfully patient. We cannot have expectations of perfection and judge the civilization. We have to suddenly realize, all right, bunch of creatures, they've got this far. Because let me tell you, the mind has an ability to render all of existence as your enemy. Did you know that? A person can sit in an uncomfortable, let's say a person's sitting on a couch and they feel off and they're like, I don't like this world, you know, there's something off here, you know. The person's like, this world was never nice to me. Why does it deserve my niceness? Why does it deserve my efforts and care? This world has been nothing but an, you know, uh, animal mosh pit. And it is there that the person suddenly gets up and they realize they were sitting on the remote controller of the TV, and that was where the suffering was coming from, and it had nothing to do with what the world was or whatever. Do you know? That means I think there should be this rule: a person should be patient 3 times at least. That means if somebody upsets you or makes you angry, the first wave you let it go. The second wave, you let it go. The third wave, you don't go savage. You don't turn into Hulk. You ask why that wave is hitting you, why that person is in your space, for example, whatnot. We have to. I say we have to, but really, it's because the void is at our doorstep as a temporary. I don't know, complex formation of cells that somehow project an animate consciousness and ideological ownership of this moment. I would say, what is the purpose of having your eyes open? It's like every day is a lifetime. Every day, like yesterday, how I felt about the day was different. And I will tell you, it's literally like levels. Like a DJ, we have different levels, different tracks playing, and we're like changing the volume between them. If we rely only on the inner realms to fulfill life, we technically are not in the world. So this may be a profound statement, but all these talks and everything any human being has ever said that has been a sort of sound and into manifestation of ideology, I will tell you, has not been in this world. Language has never been on this planet. Language is not from here. You know, there's a book here. I'll read an essay from it. I wrote this book in 2017. It's unpublished. It's called The Source of Language. You know, and I literally searched that title, and I don't think anybody's written it. The Source of Language. I was like, let me be that guy in history who was bold enough to be like, yo, I found the source. And the coolest thing is, the source of language is not in language. This world, those who see it, you will see that if you don't care for it, you have missed the world. I don't know how somebody can hate this existence and exist to themselves normally. There requires to be inner humbling, inner humility. This inner humility, I would say the way it can be accessed is if you're like, imagine billionaire CEO or whatever listening to me right now, it would literally mean you go and sit on the ground. You go sit on the grass or go sit on the street. Imagine we had this thing where the most incredibly work and business focused people on this planet suddenly They would have moments where you saw like all the most famous and rich people on the planet. Suddenly, they were showing behavioral teachings, not how to make money, how to be a millionaire. All these people, you know, I don't know where, like, I mean, marketing has its evolution, but marketing is behind. Nature's marketing is so far superior. That means marketing agencies around the world don't get it. That if you are honest, people care. I will tell you, there's right now I have a Tim Hortons cup, and um, I've been a coffee drinker for a while, and I will tell you, I have looked at the different cup designs they've had. I've seen that, all right, win a prize, do this, do that, you know? But now, especially during this COVID-19 situation, it's like the Tim Hortons cups only say thank you on them. Do you know? And I was like, wow, finally, some honest person. Like, that's what I'm telling you. The world, nature's communication far surpasses what man, you know, craves, what man carves on a stone. As this is the letter A, yeah, human progress. This is the letter B, yeah, human. Anyways, guys, let me find this essay. Out of curiosity, how many people in the chat section? I think it's too early for. I mean, it's 5 p.m. here, I guess. How many people would be interested in Discord? Those interested, please write a message. So I know what I'm going to do at the end of this. Anyways, guys, the whole point is these are cultural programs. These are masks of, if I can say, behaviorology, you know? And pretty much when we look at the dimensions of humanhood, what is it? Your movement and noise create you. So culture is a program that its source code is based on movement and noise. So technically, if from a new awareness the person moves and makes noise, that's an update. And I think that's really what the world needs, you know, because there was this view, I'll be honest, you know, those gurus you see on YouTube. I'm like, look, I'm like, these guys made the error, you know? Those gurus that say, get rid of your ego or it will devour your life. You know, like, let me tell you, language is a technology. Any person on this planet is free to perceive it in another way, but I have concluded that is the most efficient way to see language. It's an Iron Man suit that the void likes to wear sometimes. Okay, so guys, this essay I wrote in 2017 from the source of language. It's titled The Era of Communication. The era the era of communication has come. The era of advanced communication and communicators. Developing an understanding of multidimensionality is crucial at this time in our civilization. I hope that when you read these words, you remember yourself as not just a person, but your whole moment of existence. In other words, okay, to continue. In other words, listen through the planetary ear, the galactic ear, the whole cosmic ear. When you see yourself as the whole universe, you begin taking care of yourself. Therefore, taking care of your whole moment means taking care of all that is. So what is the task for the temporal consciousness? To break the boundaries of belief and to remember the transcendental state of how attention is creation, and when we close our eyes, it is only the essence of the Creator that has always looked. What that means is first seeing the world, then God. But the absolute source of all intelligence does not belong to a changing world. It is the observer of it. So your soul of souls is the observance of existence, which means innately by nature you are beyond your sensory perception. When I ask you who is aware within this moment that has senses, what is the great mystery that fascinates us all behind behind our eyes? What is the great mystery that fascinates us all behind your eyes? And could awareness be all-pervading? Mr. Within feels it is not a bad idea. I gave a shout out to myself. Mr. Within feels it is not a bad idea to develop schools of self-awareness and libraries of mystical studies. This reality is changing within an unchangeable awareness. This can only be pointed through language, but as the mystic innately knows, and is being guided so. The ego is not the enemy. Your identification with your sight is hiding the sensitivity to the seer of sight, which is not bound to the sensory perception, but is extending it as a tool for a self-effulgent mind. The issue then moves towards the consideration of linearity in thought and language structure and the non-linear flows of intuitive direct experience. Language is always a step behind direct experience. It's a greater dimension of awareness. In other words, language is concerned and relative to the observed, in quotations. However, direct experience is concerned only with the observer, in quotations. For who is reading this sentence right now? You think an ape is looking at the ink of the page and originating meaning? The mind is not a monkey, but many have monkey minds. The intensity of sincere self-inquiry suggests how much humility shall open the doors of wisdom's love in your heart. Are you a separate entity of the whole cosmos being who you are? Some mystics do not see space separate from their intelligence. Therefore they are in the world but not of it, as ancient Vedic seers of thought have suggested. I notice that the Western world has the loudest voice in media, which influences many other countries from around the world and the eyes of many children growing up in this world. Therefore, as the consciousness of the Western audience increases to the performance of the self and pays attention to how the here and now, in quotations, is being here, the light in your eyes is the light of existence. What can the savant demand from his mind that has not yet been provided? Observe your deepest activities. They are all innate. Faith requires patience to fly beyond doubt. Many are pushed by the world, and few realize they are the world. What will chaos order next? O mankind, these words are just a mirror of remembrance, for it seems we have forgotten we are a cosmic civilization. We always were, and our intelligence begins to go on the celestial walk. There is more than starlight here. And when our intelligence begins to go on the celestial walk, there's more than starlight here. In the Reboot Gita, it is suggested that your true presence is beyond the three states of waking, dream, and sleep, for it is the fourth state. What that means is that there is an attention within your attention that is beyond the dance of day and night, in the adjustment of the consciousness that you are. I may seem like a tool, but I am telling you, is that all is? But I am telling you, but all that I am telling you is that all intelligence is simultaneous. Okay. I may seem like a tool, but all I'm telling you is that all intelligence is simultaneously cosmic. You think you are a person. I am telling you, you're the whole existence, for whose moment has opened its eyes. The mystic goes within to realize how the world is without. I am not a speaker of truth, but a breaker of lies. The elegance of a quiet mind is the ability to hear truth. What can words communicate that is not a mirror in the depth of the existential and experiential intelligence that you are? You are the essence of a changing world that is changeless. A force is not a push or a pull, for the intelligence of energy originates out of the ability of the observer to remember the state prior to the energy's movement. We are more than packets of energy. Live the life that you are. Many temporal voices shall enter your ears, but the voice of eternity comes from within, roaring into great truth as the blessings of all Buddhas is received. The moment is divine, and destiny was a precious treasure innately revealed. In the trenches of human evolution, we're daring to ask eternal questions, guys. That is the human game. There is no, I have no idea. It has all been a delay. There is no student teacher ever. There has just been eyes roaming the earth. Moments complete before they could be incomplete. We are. Isn't it hilarious? We all treat ourselves as energetic beings, but in the first law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can just change from one form to another. So technically, the only thing that's making us feel temporary is our disassociation with energy, because the language of a temporary appearance of the realm has caught our eye first. Energy cannot die. And, that's kind of relieving. I need a quick intermission, guys. I'll be back. Okay. So back to the cultural programs, guys. I'm going to share a few more ideas, then end it off. So here's the thing. There is culture, let us say, as a program, and this cultural program is a collective, impersonal system dash dimension. Okay? Culture, if you look at it from the past, it's an advancement. If you look at it for the future, where we're going to be incredibly multidimensional, it's a bit behind or a bit slow. So this program, let us say it is made of smaller programs. These smaller programs are, let us call them personal programs. Okay, personal cultural programs. What does that mean? That means how the individual, as first being a person to themselves, has accepted the world and the culture. What that means is a culture, you can say it's like there isn't just one set way. It is like an artwork where every person gets a different interpretation and a different acceptance. For me, when it comes to from a Stoic angle, for me, I am wearing behavior. I am picking it up like a sword, and do you know what I mean? Like it's something that you you animate as, or become animate through. So the personal interpretation of the cultural program would be the inner realms, how the inner realms have accepted what they have seen so far as the outer realms. So culture is a program, the collective program is the impersonal dimension, it's the archetype of the collective human being, it's the advanced communicator of the advanced civilization. Then I would say in the personal, you are you. You are you with the flaws you have, with the unique DNA, with the eyes that only you see through. That's really where your inner realms are. Now, when we think about how does this cultural program update, because we're living through it, we're like, we might as well update it. I mean, we're here, you know? We're living through cultural programs, so now the update is the crucial thing. So the update, I would say the algorithm is from the personal cultural program, there has to come a return to what was it that I said earlier? Let me see. Okay. So the cultural program, that means this honest. If the cultural program was an atom, the solution has to come from a subatomic level. Now, culture is what gives society life. You know, if society is the outline in a coloring book, culture is what um, brings it to life, colors it in. We are coloring in a meaningless, animate, collective event into different stories. So what does that mean? That means from the personal level, the question has to come of the story. That means you have to wonder who you are behind your eyes. And if you can wonder who you are behind your eyes, it tends to be two things. You either quickly bounce back into the outer realms, or you find a question, or you find a rhythm. And that question, I would say deep questions update the cultural program, because they question it not from the effect where they are now, they question the source, the intent. You know, That means a car is parked, instead of us being like, this car is to blame, we got to destroy the car. We're like, okay, how is the car here? We went to the source. We found the person who had parked in the wrong place and had to move. You know? So I would say for culture, we can say culture is a vehicle. It's a bus. It's an ideological bus that people get on. Yay. This is the way we behave to continue. But if we were to think about the inner realms, questioning who am I, and coming into terms that because we're on a rock, we should already be at the spaceship Earth level. That means modern metaphysics is its beauty will touch that. Touch that idea that it's as if for how long animals barking at one another. Ideology. It becomes after some point wanting to develop a hive mind. We're going from, reckless wolves into efficient bees. For the first time, a wolf is going to evolve into a bee, guys, but it's human character. There is a great power that comes, I have found, with simple, honest living. And when I say honest, every person, every child is born without image of in honesty or dishonesty. Do you know what I mean? It's about the quality. If you feel your future self deserves a better memory, you honor your presence now. If you feel your future self deserves a sad memory of who you are, then, the person has authorization to stay sad. Because here's the thing. It's like the person's like, why is this life so cruel? Why is there so much suffering? Then the person's like, hold on. What's that hourglass in the distance? And the person saw that was time. Holy shit. It's like the candle's going to finish. The light of the candle will finish one day. So the significance, our greatest leap in efficiency is to be like eagles that went to the sky, and from that eagle vision, selfless eagle vision, saw the selves of civilization. All knowledge, human knowledge, is from the efforts of human beings. That means any idea in language tends to come from a person's eyes who had lived in a certain way to find a significance for that language to be developed. Language is us in a dimension that has nothing to do with matter. I don't want to say nothing to do with matter, but I'm saying like it's not matter. That means when I think about my body, of course that matters to me, But when I think about my mind, it matters, but it is not matter. It is not stuff. It's the viewer of stuff. That means there has never been just stuff. There has been consciousness plus stuff. We are conscious stuff. Or another way of saying it, because our consciousness is dependent on light for the visual access to the design of the realm, we are light stuff. Mind stuff, maybe that. I mean, what's the cool thing is if it's like language is malleable. Language is honestly, it's a technology. You identify with too much, it's like a mechanic holding a wrench in its hand and thinking the wrench is its hand. And the mechanic goes home, and like the wife of the mechanic's like, honey, what the fuck is that in your hand? And the guy's like, that is my hand, and then it's like, But I'll tell you guys, it's honestly association with the temporary, which is being witnessed from a position that can't be temporary, because if it was temporary, it couldn't be aware of itself. When I say it couldn't be aware of itself if it was temporary, is that, you see, this is the whole difference between analytical philosophers, I find, and continental philosophers. The analytical philosopher, let's say if it was Photoshop and you had a bunch of layers of images, the analytical philosopher has not made invisible the significance of subjective phenomena being completely separate. That means it's an incomplete disrespect to Rene Descartes, materialism. Because Rene Descartes was thinking of a sort of mind-body dualism. What he thought was that, could it be that as the atomic existence has found itself in a room, could it be that the attention being prior, the questioner, the doubter, can the doubter doubt the doubter? And that was where Rene Descartes, like the first man who stepped on the moon or whatever, Rene Descartes stepped into the inner realms like an astronaut. He, for his time at least, of course, there has been endless. Do you know how many invisible continental philosophers there are? Very few. I would say like 12% of continental philosophers actually speak. The rest are through silent entertaining the dimensions that language has, in a sense. So the difference between the analytical and continental is that the continental is like, buddy, language is too mysterious. It's not that easy. We cannot render everything as just what we see, when there is the biggest question of, all right, we have five senses, we all agree with that. Our perception is based on our five senses, but where are these senses being gravitated to? What is the point of sensory perception? This is one of those ultimate questions in philosophy. Any person dares answer an ultimate question, you ultimately become a founder. Why? Because you have cared to see the new. Compassion for the new is the literally putting your foot on the gas pedal of an advanced civilization, towards an advanced civilization. So anyways, guys, I'm going to end the talk here. I'm going to be on Discord in a couple minutes. Thanks for listening.